This has been an incredible week for America, and I've learned a lot myself over this week. I can tell you that I've learned over these past 12 months the kind of complicated place that Washington, D.C. truly is. It really is an often unfair place that can be cluttered with interest groups concerned with one thing, and that being themselves. And I know that that does not represent the America that I came up in. I have a father who would drive back to the grocery store if the cashier gave him back too much change. I served for 12 years alongside men and women who only ever asked what could they do for America, for their friends, for their neighbors, known and unknown, or for their kin. This historic tax bill has been an amazing restoration of hope in the system for me personally. And I'm not going to be bashful to tell you that I am proud to have had the opportunity to represent you in this fight. And it has been that. It has been a tooth and nail, drag out battle to do simple things that benefit all Americans. The truth is that you go to work each day and you earn with your sweat and your time and your ingenuity, and you should get to keep it. You earned it. And there should be no caveats to this. The government gets a portion of your wage to provide structure and safety and law, but it should never be a complicated burden, nor should it ever be a weapon. Our tax structure should never force jobs, that opportunity to go to work, to foreign countries because their government took the time to be less complicated and more simple than our government did. For far too long, we've taken for granted that America is the only place to do business. And we've asked so much of those who wanted to be here doing business that they chose to go and open doors in other places under other flags, other countries. And that ends now. We will return to you control of your dollars, your future, now. We are Americans, and we deserve a system that reflects our spirit. We're entrepreneurs. We tinker on projects in our garage, and while we work for others, we dream of how we bring our own unique ideas to market, how we ourselves become not the employed, but become the employer. And then we go out there and we do it. You know, in this fight, there have been many who have tried to frighten anybody who will listen to them, to scare them, to go out there and scare students or scare Social Security recipients. Let me say that I will personally always fight to ensure that no plan, tax or otherwise, comes at the expense of the Social Security benefits that you spent your life earning. This tax bill will be, in fact, the biggest boom in decades to you seniors who have not seen your earned benefits keep up with the cost of life and rent and groceries and electric and fuel. A retiree with $20,000 in Social Security benefits and $16,000 in pension will save hundreds of dollars in their taxes. You students can not only still deduct your student loan interest from your tax bill, and graduate students will continue to enjoy their deferred tuition for work tax-free, but doubling your standard deduction will mean that your filing is so simple that you can do it on one card on a Saturday morning. And your savings are going to be far greater than you could have hoped to achieve if you itemized your taxes. Your tax rates will be less. So if you enter school and then exit school and then start a business, the government will now take less so that you have a better chance to succeed in your entrepreneurial ventures. This is a fact. In our area, 70% of tax filers, 70% take the standard tax deduction. That tax deduction is currently $6,000 for individuals, $9,000 for the head of household, or $12,000 for a married couple filing jointly. We are doubling that standard deduction. Double the amount of your earnings are protected as we raise the standard tax deduction to $12,000 for individuals, $18,000 for the head of household, or $24,000 for a married couple filing jointly. No more saving every single receipt for 365 days and worrying that if you don't have some statement stuffed away in a shoebox that you're going to be audited at some point by the IRS. You know, many students for years now have been scared, have been worried that they've invested in a great education but will not get to use it because companies were taking jobs elsewhere or not hiring because of the sluggish economy that for 8 years was flatlining. You students have renewed hope. American companies and workers have always been the best, have always been the most competitive. They have been hurt by a government with an appetite that will always grow if unchecked. That has left America an environment that cannot compete for the jobs that we want. And that ends now. The corporate tax rate will be right-sized from 35% down to 21%, making us friendly for the companies that want to give you your start in the working world. That is real jobs in our community at places like Sikorsky or Nextera or Pratt & Whitney or Lockheed or Triumph or Pursuit or Viking or the hundreds of other companies that are looking to hire you when you exit school. Lockheed Martin has already announced that they are exploring numerous options to utilize the benefits from the tax reform program in ways that will support the growth of their company and deliver value to their employees. Wells Fargo has already announced that they are expanding their ongoing investments in team members by raising the minimum hourly pay rate at Wells Fargo to $15 an hour, not because the federal government demanded that they do so, but because of the benefits that they are going to see from this new tax plan. The CEO of Boeing has already announced immediate commitments for an additional $300 million in investments that will move forward as a result of this new tax law. $100 million for employee gift matching programs for charitable investments. $100 million for workforce development such as training and education and other capabilities. And $100 million for the workplace of the future, facilities and infrastructure enhancements that's going to help those employees. Companies like AT&T and CVS and Apple have already announced that they will invest more of their money in the United States of America to hire more employees right here. Some have tried to frighten parents who gladly go out there each and every day and bust their rear just to provide their children with a little bit more opportunity than they themselves had. Well, now is the time for our parents and our families to cheer, because the child tax credit will rise from $1,000 per child to $2,000 per child. In our area, we have 42,000 families receiving the child tax credit for 1, 2, 3, 4 plus children. And we add an additional $500 for a dependent credit for families who have an adult dependent that move back into the home. For every family that I know, that is tuition, that is college savings, that's groceries, that's mortgage payments, that's real money for real families in our community. There have been those that have tried to go out there and frighten anybody who will listen because they're saying that the cost of medical expenses is going to no longer be able to be deducted. Well, I'm here to tell you that our plan not only maintains the deduction for medical expenses, but it expands its reach. Currently, under the current tax code, you can only deduct medical expenses that exceed 10% of your adjusted gross income. We have expanded that deduction so that you can now deduct medical expenses that are over 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. Beyond this, millions of Americans have been trapped by the government through the terrible healthcare laws known as the ACA or Obamacare into participating in a healthcare plan that they can barely afford with deductibles that make it unusable for them, or else they have to pay a tax. They have to pay a fine to the government for making their own choice in what health plans they want to go out there and pursue. Over 6 million Americans decided to pay that fine in 2015. Nearly 60% of those who paid that fine came from people that were earning less than $50,000 a year. So make no mistake, this was a tax on middle-class America, and that tax ends now. Our bill brings an end to the Obamacare individual mandate, and it returns the respect to you that you deserve. You purchase the health care that is best for you. No longer will the government force you into buying something that you don't want. They have tried to both scare and demonize small business owners and farmers and families that have spent generations building the American dream. This bill is about protecting that dream by doubling the exemption of the estate tax so that your family business stays in your family and you're not taxed twice. The worst demonization that I've seen through this fight has been to condemn our neighbors who have made great financial gains in their work or in their business or in their entrepreneurial ventures. I don't know when we stop being proud of our neighbor for achieving their dream. Wealth is not finite. It's not a pie that has only a few slices to eat. Just because someone has more than us, that doesn't mean that they stole it from us. And thinking and acting in that way will not generate one more dollar of wealth for any other person. And that is the critical message here. Wealth is created. It's grown like in a garden. And just like in a garden, you need the right conditions to have a bountiful harvest. That is what our tax bill is all about. Creating the right conditions so that the American people can have the confidence to pursue their dreams and the environment where their dreams can flourish. We're cutting every bracket of tax rates for every income level. And I could not be more proud of that, because everyone should get to keep what they have grown, what they have gone out there and worked for and earned. A tax cut for every income level, top to bottom. Another reason why this is important is because small businesses are taxed at those rates. 94% of all businesses in America are small pass-through businesses. The overwhelming majority of these small businesses, they employ more than 50% of the private sector workforce. And again, these main street drivers of the American dream are taxed at the individual rates, and the majority are being taxed at the top individual rate. Now, in addition to the new lower rates, the pass-through businesses will see a 20% deduction on business profits that would further stimulate our Main Street economy. Furthermore, we have expanded the deduction that lets businesses write off many of the types of equipment purchases up front rather than depreciate over many years. And we raised the limit for depreciation from $500,000 to $1 million. They can use this deduction to finance everything from computers to manufacturing machinery. How this looks is if you are a married small business owner, for instance, a pool cleaning company or a lawn care company in our area, and you bring home $100,000, currently you would pay 10% tax on your first $18,650, 15% tax on everything from $18,651 to $75,900, and 25% tax on everything from $75,901 to $100,000, for a total tax liability of about $16,500 without any deductions. That's before we talk about any deductions that are out there. Under the new system, you will deduct 20% right off the top and only pay tax on the remaining $80,000. The first $19,000 is taxed at 10%. Everything from $19,000 to $77,400 would be taxed at 12% instead of 15%, and earnings above $77,400 will be taxed at 22% instead of 25%, for a total tax liability of about $9,480. That's before any additional deductions, a savings of somewhere around $7,000. We are cutting every bracket of tax rates for every income level. And I could not be more proud of that, because everyone should get to keep what they work for. The bottom 50% of taxpayers who pay about 3% of our taxes, those people that are making under $38,000 a year, they deserve a tax break. And the top 50% of our taxpayers who pay about 97% of our taxes, folks that are making over $38,000 a year, they deserve a tax break. The top 25% of our taxpayers who pay 87% of our income taxes, folks making over $77,000 a year, you deserve a tax break. The top 10% of our nation's taxpayers who pay 71% of our taxes, folks that are making over $133,000 a year or more, they deserve a tax break. The top 5% who pay 60% of our nation's income taxes, folks that are making over $185,000 a year, they deserve a tax break. And even the top 1% who pay 39% of our taxes, folks that are making over $465,000 a year, they too deserve a tax break. the new lower rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, 24%, 32%, 37%, the doubled standard deduction, the end to the individual mandate, the doubled child tax credit, and the 21% corporate tax rate. This is the step towards limited government. This is expanded freedom. I will continue to work to end our government's wasteful ways, to fight the government to allow each citizen to be prosperous, and to make sure that government is the servant of the people and not people the servant to our government. I don't want you to have to trust me or any other person in Washington, D.C. I want you to be allowed to control your own life, your own health care, your own wages, so that all you have to do is to trust your own decisions. Thank you for allowing me to fight this fight for you. May God bless each and every one of you, and may you have a Merry Christmas.